One letter, one phone call most people never make. That's all it takes for the Social Security Administration to hold back thousands of dollars from a retiree who did absolutely nothing wrong, except misunderstand a single rule. And this rule doesn't just affect people who retired early. It affects widows. It affects grandparents who picked up a part-time job to help with the bills. It even affects people who think they already know everything about their benefits. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how this mistake happens, how to avoid it, and what 3 real families learned the hard way, so you don't have to. Welcome back to Prime Move Guide, the channel where we break down Social Security, Medicare, and retirement benefits in plain English. No confusing government language, no guesswork. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit subscribe because we publish videos like this every single week, and the rule we're about to explain has already cost some families a portion of an entire year's benefits. So let's get into it. Let's start with Michael. Michael is 67 years old, a retired firefighter living just outside Reno, Nevada. After 28 years pulling people out of burning buildings, Michael finally hung up his gear and started collecting his Social Security retirement benefit at 64. He figured that was that. A monthly deposit, a quiet retirement, maybe some fishing on the weekends. But last spring, Michael took on a part-time job at a local hardware store. Nothing dramatic, just enough to cover a few extra expenses and stay busy. What Michael didn't realize is that because he claimed his retirement benefit before reaching his full retirement age, the Social Security Administration was still watching how much he earned from work. Here's the rule. Almost nobody explains clearly. If you claim your retirement benefit before your full retirement age and you're still working, Social Security applies something called the earnings test. In 2026, if you're under full retirement age for the entire year, you can earn up to $24,480 before your benefits are affected. Once you cross that line, Social Security withholds $1 in benefits for every $2 you earn above the limit. It's not a penalty in the sense of a fine. It's more like a temporary hold. The money isn't gone forever. Once you reach full retirement age, Social Security recalculates your monthly benefit to give you credit for what was withheld. But if you don't know this rule exists, getting a smaller deposit than expected can feel like a gut punch, especially when you're counting on that money to pay rent or a utility bill. Michael found out the hard way when his direct deposit came in noticeably lower than the month before. He opened his banking app, saw the number, and immediately assumed something was wrong with his account. He called his bank first, not Social Security, thinking maybe a payment had bounced or a fraud alert had frozen part of his funds. It wasn't until he logged into his personal My Social Security account online that he saw the notice explaining that his earnings had triggered a benefit withholding. That's the moment when the confusion really sets in for people. They see a smaller number and panic, when in reality the system is working exactly the way it's designed to. Picture the scene for a second. Michael standing at his kitchen counter, coffee going cold, phone in one hand, checking his banking app, scrolling up and down as if the number might change if he refreshed it enough times. That image will feel familiar to a lot of you watching this video, because checking a bank notification has become the modern version of opening the mailbox with your heart in your throat. And just like opening an envelope from Social Security, seeing an unexpected number on a screen can trigger the exact same wave of worry. Now, let's meet Donna. Donna is 71, lives in North Carolina, and worked for over 3 decades as a librarian before retiring. Donna receives Supplemental Security Income, commonly known as SSI, which is a needs-based program run by Social Security for people with limited income and resources. Donna's situation is a little different from Michael's, because SSI has its own set of rules about earned and unearned income, and even gifts from family members can sometimes count against her monthly payment. Donna found this out when her granddaughter sent her $400 to help cover a dental bill. It was a kind gesture, but because SSI counts most types of income, including some cash gifts, toward the resource and income limits, Donna's next payment was reduced. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of the entire system. People assume SSI works just like retirement benefits, but it doesn't. SSI has strict income limits, and it also has a resource limit, currently set at $2,000 for an individual and $3,000 for a couple lay, meaning the total value of things you own, like money in the bank, can affect your eligibility. Donna didn't know that an unexpected deposit, even a loving one from family, needed to be reported. She wasn't trying to hide anything. She simply didn't know the rule existed because nobody had ever explained it to her in plain language. Donna described the moment she opened her SSA notice at her kitchen table, reading glasses perched on her nose, running her finger down the page line by line, trying to understand why the number looked different from what she expected. She told us she almost called her granddaughter first to apologize, worried she had done something wrong by accepting help. That's the emotional weight so many SSI recipients carry. It isn't just about the dollars, it's the fear of being penalized for something that felt completely innocent, like a family member trying to help with a dental bill. Here's a myth worth busting directly, because it circulates constantly in retirement forums and comment sections. Some people believe that only cash counts as income for SSI purposes, and that gift cards, help with rent, or groceries paid for by a family member don't count at all. That's not accurate. Depending on the type of support, in-kind help like someone paying your rent or buying your food can sometimes count as income too. Under a rule, Social Security calls in-kind support and maintenance. It's a complicated area, and the exact impact depends on your living situation. So, if a family member regularly helps you financially, it's worth calling Social Security or visiting your local field office to ask exactly how that support should be reported. And then there's Anthony. Anthony is 61, living in Illinois, and worked for over 20 years as an electrician before a back injury made it impossible for him to continue. Anthony receives Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, which is different from SSI because it's based on your work history and the amount you paid into Social Security through payroll taxes, rather than being strictly needs-based. Anthony's mistake wasn't about extra income at all. His mistake was about paperwork. Social Security periodically reviews disability cases to confirm that a person's medical condition still meets the definition of disability. This is called a continuing disability review. Anthony received a letter in the mail asking him to complete a form about his current medical treatment, and because the letter looked like ordinary junk mail mixed in with flyers and coupons, he set it aside without opening it for almost 3 weeks. By the time Anthony opened the envelope, the deadline to respond was only a few days away. If he had missed it entirely, Social Security could have suspended his benefits until he provided the requested information. Thankfully, Anthony called the number on the letter, explained the delay, and was able to submit his paperwork just in time. But that near miss taught him something important. Every single piece of mail from Social Security needs to be opened immediately. No exceptions, because deadlines in that system are rarely flexible. Anthony described standing at his mailbox at the end of his driveway in Illinois, flipping through a stack of catalogs, coupon flyers, and what looked like just another piece of junk mail. He said the SSA envelope didn't look any different from the advertisement sitting right next to it, and that's exactly the problem so many disability recipients run into. There's no flashing red warning on these envelopes. They arrive quiet, plain, and easy to overlook, especially for someone managing chronic pain or fatigue who might not open every piece of mail the same day it arrives. Continuing disability reviews happen on a schedule based on how likely your medical condition is expected to improve. If improvement is expected, a review might happen every 6 to 18 months. If improvement is possible but not guaranteed, reviews typically happen around every 3 years. And if improvement is not expected at all, reviews are usually spaced 5 to 7 years apart. Anthony's back injury fell into that middle category, which is why his review came up sooner than he expected. Understanding which category applies to your own condition can help you anticipate these letters instead of being caught off guard by them. So, here's what ties Michael, Donna, and Anthony together. None of them were trying to break any rules. None of them were dishonest. They simply didn't know the specific rule that applied to their exact situation, because Social Security rules are scattered across websites, mailed notices, and phone menus that can feel like a maze. And that confusion is exactly why mistakes like this happen to good, honest people every single day. Let's slow down for a moment and talk about why the earnings test trips up so many retirees like Michael. Full retirement age depends on the year you were born. For most people watching this video, full retirement age falls somewhere between 66 and 67. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. If you claim retirement benefits before that age and continue working, the earnings test applies. But here's the part that surprises a lot of people. The earnings test only counts wages and net self-employment income. It does not count pensions, retirement account withdrawals, investment income, interest, or annuities. So if Michael had been living off a pension and a modest investment account instead of a part-time paycheck, none of that money would have counted against his benefit at all. There's another detail that trips people up even further. In the year you reach full retirement age, the rule becomes more generous. Instead of the $24,480 limit, a higher limit applies, and the withholding rate changes to $1 withheld for every $3 earned above that limit, and only counting earnings before the month you actually reach full retirement age. Once you hit full retirement age, the earnings test disappears completely. From that point forward, you can earn any amount of income from work, and it will never reduce your Social Security retirement benefit again. This is where delayed retirement credits come into the conversation, and it's worth explaining because it connects directly to Michael's situation. Delayed retirement credits are the extra money you may receive each month by waiting longer before claiming retirement benefits up until age 70. For every year you delay past full retirement age, your monthly benefit increases by roughly 8%. Michael claimed early at 64, which means his monthly benefit was permanently reduced compared to what he would have received by waiting until his full retirement age, and reduced even further compared to waiting all the way until 70. That's not a mistake in itself. Plenty of people have very good reasons to claim early, whether it's health, immediate financial need, or simply wanting to enjoy retirement sooner. But it's a decision that should be made with full information, not by accident. Let's go back to Donna for a moment, because her situation opens up an important myth we need to bust. A lot of people believe that once you're approved for SSI, your payment amount stays the same every month unless the government announces a cost of living adjustment. That's not accurate. SSI payments can change monthly based on your countable income. If Donna's granddaughter sends her money one month and not the next, her payment could bounce up and down depending on what was reported. This is exactly why Social Security asks SSI recipients to report changes in income, living situation, and resources as soon as they happen, rather than waiting for the annual review. Reporting late doesn't just cause confusion, it can occasionally lead to an overpayment, which means Social Security may ask for that money back later. Nobody wants that surprise, especially on a fixed income. Now, here's something that offers real relief once you understand it. If you ever receive a notice saying you were overpaid, whether through SSI, SSDI, or retirement benefits, you are allowed to request a waiver or set up a manageable repayment plan. Social Security does not expect people to hand over their entire next check. You can call and explain your financial situation, and in many cases, they will work with you on a smaller monthly amount, or in some cases, waive the overpayment entirely if it wasn't your fault, and repaying it would cause financial hardship. That single fact brings a lot of peace of mind to families who panic the moment they see the word overpayment printed on an official letter. Let's check back in on Anthony, because his story teaches one more lesson that applies to almost everyone watching this video, whether you're on SSDI, SSI, or retirement benefits. The best tool available to avoid these kinds of scares is a personal My Social Security account created directly through SSA.gov. This free online account lets you view your benefit verification letters, track any pending reviews, update your direct deposit information, and see notices the moment they're issued, often before the paper version even arrives in your mailbox. Anthony set up his account the same week his continuing disability review letter arrived, and he told a friend afterward that he wished he'd done it years earlier. Instead of wondering whether a letter was legitimate or worrying about a deadline sneaking past him, he can now check his status anytime, day or night. There's another rule that often causes confusion, especially among widows and widowers. So let's address it directly since it applies to a huge portion of our audience. Survivor benefits allow a widow or widower to receive benefits based on their late spouse's earnings record, sometimes starting as early as age 60 or age 50 if the survivor is disabled. But here's the part that catches people off guard. If you're eligible for both your own retirement benefit and a survivor benefit, Social Security doesn't just add them together. You generally receive whichever amount is higher, and there are strategic choices about which benefit to claim first, depending on your age and circumstances. Here's the surprising part that most people never hear about until it's too late. In some cases, it can make sense to claim a reduced survivor benefit first, while allowing your own retirement benefit to keep growing through delayed retirement credits, then switching over to your own higher retirement benefit later, once it surpasses the survivor amount. In other cases, the opposite strategy makes more sense. There's no single right answer for everyone, because it depends entirely on your age, your spouse's earnings record, and your own work history. This is an area where a mistake in the order you claim things can permanently affect how much you receive for the rest of your life. So if this applies to you or someone you love, it's worth a direct conversation with Social Security or a qualified benefits counselor before making any final decision. Widows and widowers often tell us the same thing. They were so overwhelmed by grief and paperwork that nobody sat down and explained these choices clearly. If you're watching this video and you recently lost a spouse, please know that you're allowed to take your time with this decision. Social Security representatives can walk you through your options over the phone or in person, and there's no rule that says you have to decide everything on the day you file your first form. Before we continue, here's something that ties directly into the mailbox and bank account many of you check every single month. Beginning in January of 2026, Social Security benefits increased by 2.8% because of the annual cost of living adjustment, known as COLA. That's the yearly increase that helps benefits keep up with rising prices, and it's based on changes in a government index that tracks everyday costs like groceries, gasoline, and housing. For the average retired worker, that translates to an increase of about $56 a month, bringing the average retirement benefit to a little over $2,000. It's a real increase, and it matters. But many retirees noticed that the bump felt smaller than expected once Medicare Part B premiums were deducted. Medicare Part B is the part of Medicare that helps cover doctor visits and outpatient medical care, and for most beneficiaries, that premium comes straight out of your Social Security payment before it ever reaches your bank account. So, if your deposit went up by less than 2.8%, this is very likely the reason, not a mistake on Social Security's part. A practical tip here that we hear too rarely discussed: your official COLA notice, along with your specific new benefit amount for the year, is available through your My Social Security account, usually before the paper version arrives by mail. If you want to see the exact math behind your own new deposit, that notice will break down your gross benefit, your Medicare Part B deduction, and your final net payment line by line. Comparing that notice to your bank deposit is the single easiest way to confirm that your payment is correct, rather than trying to do the math from memory or relying on what a neighbor tells you they received. Let's return to Michael one final time, because his story has a hopeful ending that everyone watching should hear. After realizing what happened with the earnings test, Michael called Social Security directly rather than guessing or relying on rumors he'd heard from friends at the hardware store. A representative explained that once Michael reaches his full retirement age, his monthly benefit will be recalculated to account for the months benefits were withheld due to his earnings. In plain terms, that money isn't lost forever. It comes back to him gradually, spread out over his future monthly payments. Michael told us that once he understood that, the anxiety melted away. He kept his part-time job, adjusted his hours slightly to stay a little closer to the limit, and now checks his My Social Security account every month just to stay ahead of any surprises. Donna, for her part, learned to speak with her granddaughter about how gifts and financial help could affect her SSI. Now, instead of unexpected transfers, the family plans ahead and reports things properly, which has kept Donna's payments steady and predictable. And Anthony now opens every piece of mail from Social Security the same day it arrives, no matter how ordinary the envelope looks, because he knows firsthand how close a forgotten letter came to disrupting his benefits entirely. Before we wrap up, let's clear up a myth that spreads constantly across social media and group texts among retirees. There is no such thing as an automatic emergency Social Security check, a surprise stimulus deposit, or a special $2,000 card being sent out to beneficiaries unless it has been officially announced by the Social Security Administration itself through SSA.gov. If you see a post claiming otherwise, treat it as a rumor until you've verified it directly on the official government website. Scammers know that promises of extra money get shared quickly. And unfortunately, many well-meaning people share this kind of misinformation without realizing it. Always check ssa.gov or call Social Security directly at their official number before believing anything you see online about surprise payments. So, what should you actually do with everything you just learned? First, if you're collecting retirement benefits before your full retirement age and you're working, keep track of your yearly earnings against the $24,480 limit for 2026. And remember that this limit only applies until you reach full retirement age. Write that number down somewhere you'll actually see it, whether that's a sticky note on the refrigerator or a reminder in your phone, so you're never caught off guard mid-year. Second, if you or someone you love receives SSI, report any changes in income, gifts, or living situations as soon as they happen, rather than waiting for the annual review to catch it. Third, open every piece of mail from Social Security immediately, even if it looks like ordinary junk mail sitting between the flyers and coupons. And if you're on SSDI, treat continuing disability review letters as time-sensitive documents that deserve same-day attention. And fourth, set up your personal My Social Security account today if you haven't already, because it's the fastest way to see exactly what's happening with your benefits in real time, rather than guessing based on a bank deposit alone. There's one more habit worth building, and it applies to every single person watching this video, regardless of which type of benefit you receive. Before you make any big decision, whether it's taking on part-time work, accepting financial help from family, or choosing when to claim a survivor benefit, call Social Security directly and ask how that specific decision affects your specific benefit. The rules are detailed enough that a general rule of thumb from a friend, a Facebook group, or even a well-meaning family member isn't always accurate for your exact situation. A 5-minute phone call to a real representative can prevent months of confusion later. We know Social Security can feel overwhelming, especially when the letters use language that seems designed to confuse rather than clarify. But once you understand a handful of key rules, the earnings test, SSI income reporting, continuing disability reviews, survivor benefit choices, and how COLA interacts with Medicare premiums, a lot of that fear turns into confidence. You start opening your mailbox without dreading what might be inside. You start checking your bank account without bracing for a surprise. That's really the goal here at Prime Move Guide, to take confusing government rules and turn them into information you can actually use. Before you go, we'd love to hear from you. Have you already received your Social Security payment this month? And did the amount match what you expected? Let us know in the comments below, because your experience might help another viewer who's dealing with the exact same confusion right now. If this video helped clear something up for you, please consider sharing it with a friend or family member who might be facing one of these same situations. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Prime Move Guide so you don't miss next week's video, where we'll be breaking down another rule that quietly affects thousands of retirees every single year. This video is intended for educational purposes only and should not be considered legal, financial, or official government advice. For the most accurate and up-to-date information about your benefits, always visit the official Social Security Administration website or speak directly with an SSA representative.